Guardate, qui c'è un po' di posto, se volete metterci qualcuno.
Vabbè, vai,
Ci siamo spostati.
Vieni, sciogliamo lo stesso, no? Vieni, vai, scivola qua.
volete far fare il presidente in mezzo?
Allora, buonasera a tutti, good evening to everyone. Partiamo con la discussione delle tesi triennali e invito la propria candidata Abida Rusova, Alina, che discute la propria tesi con il professor Piero Esposito, a cui do la parola.
Thank you. So, Alina prepared a thesis on the impact of COVID on the structure of international trading services in Central Asia. So, Alina, you have 5 minutes, please.
Good afternoon, respected
Microphone.
Oh, sorry. Good afternoon, respected members of the committee, professors, and my colleagues. My name is Alina Abdrasulova. I am happy to stay here today with you and present my thesis work named as The Impact of the COVID-19 Pandemic on the Structure of International Trade in Services in Central Asia. The research was done at the University of Cassino in southern Lazio under the supervision of Professor Piero Esposito. Thank you, Professor. So, let's start with the research framework. There is a lot of research how global trade collapsed during the pandemic, but there is a research gap. No one has done a regional analysis for Central Asia. And my goal is to understand how the structure of global trade services changed in this region. Why Central Asia? Because it has the unique features. First of all, it's landlocked, depends on transit, and relies on mobility. I focus on 3 countries, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan. 2 time periods before and during the pandemic, and also 3 sectors like travel, transport, and digital services. So let's look at the pre-pandemic context. The region already was vulnerable, and I have here the 3 main factors. First of all, it's high dependence on transport corridors. It means the transit-based economy. Second one, travel and transport was the largest part of service export. And the third one, the digital services capacity was very different across the countries. Kazakhstan was the leader with its Astana One system. Uzbekistan was reform-driven, and Kyrgyzstan depended on remittances and had a large informal sector. So the region was already fragile before the COVID-19. So let's look at the transmission channels. The pandemic pandemic affected services in different ways, but I have 4 main channels. First of all, it's mobility restrictions. Mostly hit the sectors which depend on mobility, on physical movement. Second one, increase the border uncertainty. Delay became a big problem, but more than delay, it was the unpredictability. And business also hit because of that. Third one, the rise of digital services. Digital services like IT and consulting showed resilience because it can be done remotely. And remittance shock. Kyrgyzstan depends on remittances, and remittances from for example, Russia fell for 25%, and because of that, the GDP for the service also fell. So empirical findings. Here you can see what collapsed, what survived. Travel services fell by more than 70%. It means that transport doesn't disappear. It became less predictable and more expensive because of border checks. What survived? As I said before, the digital services like IT, transport, and financial services did better. With all data confirms that the travel collapsed, but digital services recovered faster. Here, the border uncertainty as a new type of trade cost. Data from the current program shows that the border crossing during the pandemic was increased, but the delay was not actually the problem. The problem was its variability. Sometimes crossing was the fast, sometimes slow. You never knew. That means the business can't plan anything, so that's why they should reschedule the deliveries and change the route. It means that so uncertainty became a new type of trade cost. Conclusions and recommendations. So what are the main conclusions? The pandemic didn't just reduce the trade volumes, it caused the structural shifts. And resilience, it's not about the geography, it's about the digital capacity, digital institutions. It means the infrastructure, coordination, and digital facilitation. So the pandemic wasn't just a stress test, it showed that countries with a good digital capacity can recover faster and cope better. So due to these basic findings, I have 3 policy recommendations. Diversify into digital services, focus on predictability on trade, and coordinate regionally, because resilience comes from coordination and digitalization. Finally, I want to express my thanks to my professor, supervisor, professor from the university, my family and friends, to being here with me today and supporting me in this long way. Thank you.
Thank you, Alina.
Grazie, invito la prossima candidata, Abikeva Mira, sempre con il professore Esposito.
Okay, thank you. So, Mira prepared a thesis on the decoupling of CO2 emissions among different regions, in particular comparing European Union, China, and India. So, Mira, you have 5 minutes.
Yep. Good morning, everyone. Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Mira Bukeva, and the thesis states with economic growth and carbon dioxide emission and comparative statistics study of the European Union, China, and India. The central question of my research is, can economy grow without increasing environmental damage? So more specifically, I analyze the relationship between GDP and carbon dioxide emission, comparing 3 major regions, European Union, China, and India between 2000 and 2023. More specifically, I identify different decoupling patterns. Moving to the next slide, this is a theoretical framework of emission decoupling. Emission decoupling meaning reducing environmental impact while GDP increase. There is 2 main types. Weak decoupling, it means emission grows slower than the GDP, and the second is absolute decoupling or strong decoupling, which means GDP grow while emission decline. Okay. Moving to the next slide, is decoupling over time. We can see on the diagram human well-being and economic activity GDP are increasing. Meanwhile, resource use and environmental impact, here's different. The main question is resource decoupling increasing more slowly than the GDP, and this is called resource decoupling. In sustainable scenario, it's more important. And much more important is the environmental impact. It should be decreased, and this is called environmental impact. Moving to the next slide. Economic growth patterns from the 2000-2023. I took the data from the World Bank and used our study to analyze all these countries. And we can see that China has very high growth and a slowdown in 2008 and a bit slowdown in 2020. And the India, meanwhile, has a strong but volatile growth, and European Union has slower and a stable growth. Moving to the next slide, carbon emission trends between 2000 and 2023, we can see that here China has strongly increasing tendency with some slowdown between 2013 and 2020. Meanwhile, India has increasing tendency, emission growth steady, no major drops. And European Union blue has emission gradual decline, drops around 2009 and 2020. Here is the emission distribution for 2000-2023. We can see here clearly that China dominates emission about 62%, and India 13%, and the European Union is 24%. It should be mentioned that China plays a crucial role in the trajectory environmental outcome. Here's the environmental Kuznets curve. I analyzed the environmental Kuznets curve all those 3 countries, and we can see that the environmental Kuznets curve suggests as the income increase, environmental impact first rises, then eventually decline. And looking all this result, we can see the differences between the European Union emission at the higher income levels, which indicate the European Union has a past turning point, which achieves more sustainable growth pattern. Meanwhile, China approaching this turning point, emissions are still increasing, but more at a slower rate. And the India in contrast still on the upward part of the curve, meaning that the emission continue to rise with the economic rise. Finally, but not last, type elasticity model. I use this model to measure the relationship between economic growth and carbon dioxide emission. Interpretation is straightforward. If the value is less than 0, it's strong decoupling, meaning the GDP grow and emission decline. If the value is less than 1, it's weak decoupling, emission grow, and the slower than GDP. If the value is equal or more than 1, it's negative decoupling, emission grow, and the faster than the GDP. So this is the result of decoupling results. We can see that clearly here the European Union has more strong decoupling years. Meanwhile, China has more weak decoupling, and India has more weak decoupling and negative decoupling with no strong decoupling. Okay. Here's my conclusion, and the relationship between economic growth and carbon dioxide emission different across all those regions. And the European Union, high level of economic development, strong decoupling achieved, and emission decline despite the GDP growth. And the China rapid economic growth, predominantly weak, decoupling and emissions still increase. And the India, it's an early stage of development, no strong decoupling observed, emission grow alongside or the faster than the GDP. Thank you.
Thank you, Mira. I have no further questions.
Grazie. Invito il prossimo candidato, Bisheva Aizamal, sempre con il professor Piero Esposito.
Thank you. So, Jamal prepared a thesis on the impact of remittances on the economy of Kyrgyzstan, focusing both on the economic impact and on the social impact. So you have 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, respected members of the committee. My name is Jamala Pyshova, and first of all, I would like to thank my supervisor, Professor Piero Esposito. Thank you for your support and guidance. Today, I will present my thesis titled The Economic and Social Impact of Remittances in Kyrgyz Republic. After the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, the Kyrgyzstan experienced severe economic crisis, which led to large-scale labor migration. And today, Kyrgyzstan is one of the most remittance-dependent countries in the world. In 2025, remittances reached $3.5 billion and about 15.4 GDP%. And 94% of these transfers came from Russia. Remittances act as a form of private protection, especially in rural southern regions. However, they also create risks such as dependency and Dutch disease. They reflect the dual nature of remittances, which is the main focus of my research. The objective of the study is to analyze the economic and social effects of remittances using longitudinal data, and I focus on 4 main questions. First question is, do remittances reduce poverty? Are they used for consumption or investment? What are the social effects on families left behind? And how does migration affect gender roles? The data come from Life in Kyrgyzstan survey, which covers the period from 2010 to 2025, and I used fixed effect panel models, which allows me to control for unobserved characteristics of households. And the Hausmann test confirms that the fixed effects are more appropriate than the random effects. The theoretical framework is based on the new economic of labor migration. This theory sees migration as a household strategy. To reduce risk, remittances act as informal insurance and help households cope with economic shocks. At the same time, there are negative perspectives. Remittances may lead dependency and Dutch disease, reducing competitiveness. So there is a clear trade-off between the short-term benefits and long-term risks. The results show that remittances reduce poverty by 6 to 10 percentage points, especially in rural areas. At the household level, the consumption have a strong positive effect with a coefficient of about 0.35, which is statistically significant, and the impact on productive investment is weak and statistically insignificant with the coefficient of about 0.12. This suggests that remittances are mainly used for consumption and rather than long-term investment. Despite the economic benefits, remittances also create important social costs. migrants leads to transnational families and care deficits for children and elderly. Children left behind often experience psychological problems and lower school performance. The feminization of migration increases spending on education and health, but also increases parental absence, so short-term welfare gains with long-term social challenges. To conclude, remittances are the effective tool for reducing poverty. However, they do not solve problems and may create long-term dependency. So I suggest several policy recommendations, like promoting investment through migrant bonds, improving financial inclusion, encouraging return migration, and diversifying migration destinations. Overall, remittances have a dual nature. They are both a solution and challenges. Thank you for your attention.
Ringrazio la candidata. Invito la prossima. Vai Murzaev, Arlen, sempre con te Piero.
So Arlen prepared a thesis analyzing international trade flows in goods that are the characteristics of the circular economy, to see how Central Asian countries interact in this global network of circular economy. So Arlen, you have 5 minutes.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Today I would like to present my thesis titled International Trade in Circular Goods, the case of Central Asian countries. This research analyzes how circular economy's principles reshape international trade patterns with a focus on Central Asia. Currently, only 6.9% of global materials used come from recycled sources, which highlights the structurally inefficient global economic system. The main objective of this work is to evaluate how circular economy practices can improve efficiency and create new economic in developing countries. The circular economy is becoming a key global economic priority. Global material consumption has more than tripled since 1970s, while the global waste is expected to reach 3.8 billion tons by 2050s. This demonstrates that the traditional linear model creates increasing economic inefficiencies and costs. In contrast, circular economy strategies improve resource efficiency and reduce waste. Based on this context, the main objective of this research is to analyze how circular economy principles influence international trade in Central Asia. The analysis focuses on 4 key aspects. They are trade impacts, structural barriers, economic opportunities, and policy recommendations. This research is based on comparative data from international sources such as World Bank, OECD, and Eurostat, and many others. The theoretical framework is based on the circular economy model built on reduce, reuse, and recycle. Unlike the linear model, this system keeps material in use longer and improves resource efficiency. From an economic perspective, it reduces production costs and increases long-term competitiveness. The European Union nowadays is global leader in the transition to a circular economy. Its circular material use rate is around 11–12%, while recycling rates in some countries exceed more than 50%. This progress is supported by strong policies such as the European Green Deal and many others. This demonstrates how circular economy strategies improve economic performance. In contrast, meanwhile, in Central Asia, presents significantly lower level of circular development. Circular material use in the region remains below 1%, indicating almost complete dependence on primary raw materials, which are economically inefficient in the current global context. This creates a structural gap compared to more developed economies. The analysis identifies 3 critical structural barriers in Central Asia. First, weak regulatory frameworks and low enforcement efficiency limit policy impact. The second is limited access to modern technologies and investment to reduce innovation capacity. And the third is low awareness among the business and consumers, slows adaptation of circular practices. Despite these challenges, Central Asia has a strong economic potential for circular development. Global economic for sustainable product is growing rapidly. At the same time, recycling rate in the region remains below 5%, indicating a large untapped market potential, particularly for investors and businesses. This creates opportunities for higher value-added production and better integration into global markets. For example, the case study of Kazakhstan represents the most advantaged case in the region. The government has introduced multiple policies to improve waste management and sustainability. Green investment and international cooperation are increasing, but however, the transition remains at an early stage, and the structural limitations are still significant. On the other hand, Kyrgyzstan represents a more considerate case within the region. Recycling capacity remains below 5%, and waste management infrastructure is limited due to insufficient investment and high share of informal activity. As a result, the country faced deeper structural challenges in transition to a circular economy. A clear gap exists between the European Union and Central Asia. In the European Union, recycling rate is often exceeds 50%, while in Central Asia they remain below 5%. However, this gap is not only environmental but primarily economic. Lower circularity leads to higher production costs and reduced competitiveness in international markets. This suggests that without structural changes, Central Asian countries risk falling behind the global trade dynamics. Based on this analysis, three policy directions are proposed. First is strengthening environmental regulation and improving enforcement mechanisms. Second is support to green technologies and attracting foreign direct investment. And the third is increasing awareness and promoting education in circular economy practices. Overall, this research shows that the transition to a circular economy is not only environmental necessity, but also a key economic strategy. It can improve efficiency, reduce production costs, attract investments, increase value-added production, create new jobs, and reduce dependence on raw materials. This makes the circular economy a key driver of sustainable growth and international competitiveness. Alla fine della mia presentazione voglio ringraziare il mio professore Piero Esposito per il supporto durante questo lavoro, ringrazio l'Università e anche l'Italia per questa opportunità, ringrazio la Commissione per il tempo. Grazie mille.
Thank you, Arlen. Very interesting.
Ringraziamo anche noi il candidato. Invitiamo la prossima candidata, Osmonova Adiana, che discute sempre con il professor Piero Esposito.
Okay, thank you. So Haidana made a study on the dynamics and the structural characteristics of foreign direct investments in Central Asia, with a particular focus on Kyrgyzstan.
Good afternoon, dear committee. My name is Haidana Osmonova, and today I will present my thesis titled Foreign Direct Investment in Central Asia, a sectoral analysis with a case study of Kyrgyzstan. Foreign direct investment, or FDI, is an important driver of economic growth as it brings capital, technology, and managerial expertise. It plays a key role in the transition economy by supporting modernization and integration into global market. However, in Central Asia, FDI is unevenly distributed and highly concentrated in a limited number of sectors. This creates an important question. Does FDI really contribute to sustainable economic development? The main goal of my research is to analyze how FDI is distributed across sectors and how this affects economic development. More specifically, this study focuses on whether FDI can promote economic diversification in Central Asia. To address this question, three hypotheses were developed. First one is FDI is mainly concentrated in extractive industries. Second, institutional quality significantly influences the sectoral distribution of FDI. Third one is smaller economies such as Kyrgyzstan tend to experience more volatile and concentrated investment inflows. To explain FDI patterns, I used several key theories, including the OLI paradigm, internalization theory, and institutional theory. The core idea is that institutional quality influences where investments go, and this sector allocation determine development outcomes. For example, investment in extractive industries usually generate limited spillovers, while investments in manufacturing and services contribute more to diversification and long-term growth. Now moving to the regional analysis of Central Asia, the results show that FDI is unevenly distributed across countries. Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan receive the largest share, while smaller economies like Kyrgyzstan attract less investment and experiences higher volatility. Overall, FDI in Central Asia is largely resource-seeking. Most foreign investment is directed toward extractive industries such as oil, gas, and mining, while manufacturing and services remain underdeveloped. As a result, the potential benefits of FDI, such as technology transfer, productivity growth, and diversification, remain limited. Now, focusing on Kyrgyzstan, the analysis showed that FDI inflows are unstable and highly dependent on external factors. Investment is mainly concentrated in mining, while smaller shares in manufacturing and financial services. Institutional weaknesses play a significant role, including policy instability, weak governance, and low investor confidence. Based on these findings, several policy implications can be identified. To improve the impact of FDI, Kyrgyzstan should enhance institutional quality, improve regulatory stability, and promote investment in manufacturing and services. In the long term, diversification is a key factor for sustainable economic growth. In conclusion, FDI in Central Asia is not ineffective but structurally imbalanced. Its impact depends not only on the volume of investment but also on its sectoral distribution and institutional environment. In Central Asia, and especially in Kyrgyzstan, sectoral concentration and weak institutions significantly limit the benefits of FDI. Therefore, improving institutional quality and promoting sectoral diversification are essential for transforming FDI into a driver of sustainable economic growth. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Grazie alla candidata. Invito la prossima su Unicas, Kaligak. Discute sempre con il professor Esposito.
Thank you. So the candidate prepared a thesis trying to assess the macroeconomic determinants of exchange rate movements in two Central Asian countries, in particular Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan.
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Karolaj Suyundukova. I want to present my thesis named Macroeconomic Determinants of Exchange Rate Movement in Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan. First of all, I want to thank my supervisor, Pierre Esposito, and also I would like to also greet my family watching online. Yes. So. The next presentation is why exchange rate matters. So first of all, the aim of this research is to analyze the key factors influencing exchange rate dynamics in these two economies. So the analysis based on the data from 2015 to 2023 in these two countries. The data collected from the reliable sources such as IMF and the World Bank and the national central banks. So exchange rates are important because of the affect inflation, trade, and overall the economic stability. Small open economies like this is especially vulnerable to external shocks. Research questions. There three main research questions. First of all, is what macroeconomics factors influence exchange rate movements? The second one is whether external shock affect the two countries differently. And third is the theoretical model based explain the exchange rate dynamics. And also based on this, I have here the hypothesis for the first hypothesis suggests that the Kazakhstan exchange rate is driven mainly by the oil price. Second one is the state Kyrgyzstan is more influenced by the remittance and inflation. The third hypothesis assumes that the classical theories influence more to limited explanatory power. So finally, external shocks are expected. The effect of the two countries are similar or asymmetrically. Yeah. Key findings. First, Kyrgyzstan we see remittance plays a stabilizing role. So the result shows the clear structure difference between the two economies. In Kyrgyzstan, remittance plays a stabilizing role. So while inflation puts pressure on the exchange rate, it reflects the difference between remittance-dependent and the resource-dependent economy. So exchange rate dynamics is comparative importance in these two countries. So comparison highlights that the Kazakhstan react strongly to commodity shocks, in contrast to Kyrgyzstan's home, adjust more gradually. These volatility patterns confirm the structural difference between two economies. So we see the result of the Kyrgyzstan. It's looking at the graph. Kyrgyzstan can see the exchange rate is moving there relatively smooth and less volatile. Also, at the same time, remittance inflow appear to play stabilizing role, reducing the sharp fluctuation in the exchange rate. Next slide is the result of the Kazakhstan. Main findings is the strong oil pass-through, high sensitivity in external shocks, faster and sharper exchange rate adjustments. So here the policy implication. In the short term, 1 and 2 years, FX reserve buffers, communication, expectation management. In the long term, diversification, financial deepening. And for Kyrgyzstan is a reduced dependence on remittance, improved domestic production capacity. And also for Kazakhstan, diversification in the branding oil and strengthening monetary policy credibility. So here are the limitations. Data strains, limited time service length, potential endogeneity between variables. Future research could apply more advanced econometric models. So in conclusion, the exchange rate dynamics differs significantly between the Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan. These differences are driven by the structural factors, commodity dependence, and remittance inflow. So also, the main is the general model are not always significant in the explaining currency movements. Therefore, is a more country-specific approach is needed when analyzing and managing the exchange rate. So, thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Grazie. Invito la prossima candidata, Aurora Scannella, che discute con il professor Giammetti. Raffaele?
Sì. La candidata presenterà un lavoro che si basa sullo studio dell'impatto, dell'implicazione delle politiche commerciali, degli accordi commerciali tra Unione Europea e i paesi della regione ACP, Africa, Caraibi e Pacifico. Prego, Aurora.
Buon pomeriggio alla Commissione, buon pomeriggio a tutti. Il mio elaborato si propone di analizzare l'impatto della politica commerciale dell'Unione Europea sui paesi dell'area ACP, vale a dire Africa, Caraibi e Pacifico, e pone particolare attenzione sul regime preferenziale che è stato concesso loro nel corso del tempo. La politica commerciale dell'Unione Europea si articola secondo 3 dimensioni: unilaterale, bilaterale e multilaterale. In particolare sul piano bilaterale l'Unione ha concluso numerosi accordi con singoli paesi e aree regionali, concentrandosi anche sulle relazioni economiche con i paesi in via di sviluppo. Queste relazioni si concretizzano attraverso la concessione di accordi preferenziali, i quali garantiscono condizioni di accesso più favorevoli nel mercato europeo. L'analisi si concentra sul rapporto preferenziale tra l'Unione Europea e i paesi ACP, la cui cooperazione ha avuto inizio nel 1964 con la Convenzione di Yaoundé. Questo rapporto ha subito poi una svolta significativa nel 2000 con la firma degli accordi di Cotonou. Questi accordi prevedevano la concessione di preferenze tariffarie non reciproche, vale a dire che i paesi ACP potevano esportare determinati prodotti all'interno dell'Unione senza dover fornire lo stesso trattamento. A partire dal 2007 però il sistema è stato completamente riformato, introducendo le preferenze reciproche e si sono così conclusi gli accordi di partenariato economico. Per diversi decenni, infatti, i paesi ACP hanno beneficiato di un regime preferenziale che ha consentito loro di esportare gran parte dei prodotti all'interno dell'Unione Europea con una riduzione totale o parziale dei dazi doganali. Nel corso del tempo, però, si è parlato di un processo di erosione del vantaggio preferenziale concesso. Questo fenomeno è dovuto in larga parte all'intensificarsi della concorrenza da parte dei paesi in via di sviluppo, anch'essi destinatari di regimi tariffari agevolati. Al fine di analizzare questo fenomeno, l'elaborato si propone di effettuare un'analisi comparata del vantaggio preferenziale concesso dall'Unione ai paesi ACP in relazione a 3 prodotti chiave: cacao, cuoio e legno. Per ciascun prodotto viene identificato il corrispondente codice TARIC, un codice di 10 cifre che identifica in maniera univoca le merci e determina i dazi applicabili nello scambio con i paesi terzi. Successivamente vengono identificati 2 gruppi di paesi concorrenti, in particolare i paesi in via di sviluppo e i paesi emergenti. Al fine di cogliere l'evoluzione temporale del fenomeno e procedere poi al calcolo dell'erosione del margine preferenziale, le tariffe attuali vengono confrontate con quelle previste in un periodo precedente, nel nostro caso l'anno 2000. Sulla base dei dati raccolti si procede poi al calcolo dell'erosione del margine preferenziale, la quale può portare a 3 diversi esiti. In particolare un'erosione dello 0% indica che il vantaggio preferenziale è rimasto invariato nel corso del tempo, un'erosione negativa indica che vi è stato un miglioramento del vantaggio preferenziale e al contrario un'erosione positiva indica che vi è stata una diminuzione. Possiamo affermare che il vantaggio preferenziale formalmente concesso ai paesi ACP è rimasto invariato nel corso del tempo, ma essi hanno subito una perdita del loro vantaggio a causa della concessione di migliori condizioni tariffarie ai paesi in via di sviluppo. Tra gli altri fattori che hanno contribuito a ridurre il vantaggio preferenziale vi è senza dubbio l'istituzione degli accordi di partenariato economico, i quali hanno modificato completamente il sistema introducendo il sistema delle reciprocità. Infatti le reciprocità previste dagli APE comportano delle sfide significative per le economie ACP, le quali in assenza di basi solide potrebbero subire degli effetti negativi derivanti dalla perdita del loro vantaggio. Poi un altro punto di svantaggio è sicuramente gli adeguamenti strutturali richiesti per poter beneficiare del trattamento preferenziale, i quali richiedono costi elevati e troppo difficili da sostenere per le economie più fragili. Un possibile punto di svolta è rappresentato dall'accordo di Samoa, firmato nel 2023. Questo accordo introduce una struttura ibrida articolata in un quadro generale e 3 protocolli regionali distinti, Africa, Caraibi e Pacifico, per riflettere le specificità geopolitiche delle 3 regioni. Tra gli obiettivi che si pone vi è una maggiore integrazione regionale, allargando la gamma di prodotti esportabili all'interno dell'Unione Europea, e tra i principi cardine che si pone di raggiungere vi è senza dubbio la sostenibilità. Dopodiché l'innovazione e lo sviluppo tecnologico sono considerate delle leve fondamentali per la crescita di questi paesi e quindi i partner commerciali si impegneranno a concedere delle competenze e tecnologie. Tuttavia il raggiungimento di questi obiettivi resta subordinato al superamento di alcune criticità tipiche di questi paesi. Innanzitutto il superamento del processo di ratifica, la disponibilità di risorse finanziarie adeguate e la crescente competizione nel contesto internazionale. Grazie per l'attenzione.
Grazie. Iniziamo adesso la discussione delle tesi magistrali. Può avvicinarsi il candidato Anwar Medifiz che discute la sua tesi con me, ha fatto un lavoro sul TQM, sulle esportazioni dell'India. Prego il candidato di rispettare i tempi, è una preghiera che faccio a tutti naturalmente. Grazie.
Good afternoon, one and all. My research examines how total quality management can enhance the global competitiveness of India's leather export sector. Although India is one of the largest producers of leather goods, success in international markets depends not only on production capacity, but also on consistent quality and reliability. This study therefore explores how structured quality management practices can support sustainable export performance. The leather industry is a significant contributor to India's economy, providing employment and generating foreign exchange. However, global markets are becoming increasingly competitive and require strict compliance with quality, safety, and sustainability standards. Improving quality management is therefore essential for maintaining long-term export success. The main objective of this research is to understand how total quality management can improve the performance of export-oriented leather firms. The study identifies the factors that support successful implementation and examines how these influence export outcomes. It also considers the barriers organizations encounter when adopting systematic quality practices. Overall, the research aims to provide insights useful for both managers and policymakers. Total quality management represents a comprehensive approach to organizational improvement rather than a single technique. Strong leadership establishes direction and commitment throughout the organization. Customer focus ensures that products meet international expectations and market requirements. A key idea is preventing defects at the source instead of correcting them later. The study follows a qualitative approach that combines theoretical analysis with real-world observation. Case studies of export-oriented firms were examined to understand applications. In addition, field visits to leather tanneries allowed direct observation of production processes and quality control practices, helping connect theoretical concepts with actual industrial conditions. The findings indicate that leadership commitment has the strongest influence on export performance. Organizations with supportive management structures were more effective in implementing quality practices. Firms with structured production processes achieved more consistent leather quality, which strengthens competitiveness in international markets. As a practical extension of this research, I'm also building a leather brand called Lazio Cuoio, based here in Italy. The idea is to combine traditional craftsmanship with modern international quality expectations. To better understand the industry, I visited field visit to leather tanneries and attended the Milan Leather Fair, one of the most important global events in the sector. These experiences allowed me to observe materials, finishing techniques, design trends, branding strategies used by leading companies. Overall, this project demonstrates how TQM principles can be applied in a real business context. Despite its advantages, implementing TQM presents several difficulties. Many firms encounter resistance to organizational change and lack proper trained personnel. Financial constraint can limit long-term investment in quality improvement. Maintaining consistent standards across suppliers and production stages is also challenging, especially for small and medium enterprises. To overcome these challenges, strong leadership and a quality-oriented organizational culture are essential. Investment in employee training helps sustain standards and adapt to international requirements. Together, these measures can significantly improve export performance and long-term competitiveness. In conclusion, total quality management plays a crucial role in enhancing the competitiveness of Indian leather export. By ensuring consistent quality and continuous improvement, firms can better meet global standards and customer expectations. Although implementation challenges exist, the long-term benefit includes stronger market positioning and sustainable growth. Therefore, TQM can serve as a strategic tool for achieving lasting success in international markets. Thank you for your attention.
Grazie. Invito la prossima candidata, Baldabalieva Zuldiz, che ha fatto una tesi sul ruolo del TQM nel sistema formativo con uno sguardo sulla situazione del Kazakistan.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, dear members of the committee, my colleagues and guests. I'm deeply grateful to my professor, Lucio Capelli, for the guidance. My name is Julduz Bazarbayeva, and my thesis is Total Quality Management Toolkit for Small Educational Centers in Emerging Economies, a case study from Kazakhstan. Let me begin by outlining the objectives of my study. When we talk about quality in education, we often default to large universities or well-funded institutions. But what about the thousands of small private centers? They often lack the tools to improve systematically. My 4 objectives were designed to go from theory to practice, to understand where TQM came from, to identify what makes it difficult for small centers to build a toolkit that fits their reality. When small educational centers try to adapt TQM tools, they often find the models too complex, too expensive, or too bureaucratic. And these educational centers, they play a key role in human capital development, especially in emerging economies. So my aim was not to build a completely new theory, but to simplify and adapt existing TQM principles into a practical toolkit that any small center can use. The history of TQM shows a gradual shift from simply checking for defects at the end of the process to designing quality into the process itself. So pioneers like Deming, Duran, and Ishikawa, they all emphasize that quality is not a one-time project. It's a continuous effort that involves everyone. In developed countries like United Kingdom, United States, Europe, higher education institutions emphasize top management commitment, strategic planning, and active employee involvement. But in emerging economies that I studied, such as Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan, leadership and stakeholder focus are prioritized. What makes emerging economies different? It's not just a lack of money. I found 3 layers of challenges, and the biggest ones were tight budgets, part-time staff, and a strong hierarchical tradition. And building the toolkit, I started with a simple question. What would a director with no dedicated quality manager and a very limited budget actually use? The design principle was simplicity. Every tool had to be low cost, easy to explain, and possible to implement without special software. The toolkit is modular. You can choose to implement only a few tools at first and add more over time. The tables you see on the slide contain only the first 3 tools. These are not isolated tools, they work together. For instance, the 5S method for organizing the office creates discipline and makes it easier to track documents. That discipline then supports PDCA cycles for solving problems. The toolkit also includes a 12 months roadmap so that centers can pace themselves and not feel overwhelmed. So the implementation took place over 6 months in a small educational center in Kazakhstan. And I want to emphasize that the process was not always smooth. Some staff initially saw the daily meetings as extra work, but over time they began to appreciate having a space to raise issues and see them resolved. Over 6 months, more students began to complete their courses. That's not just a statistic. It means fewer students dropping out and more families seeing value in their investment. The registration process became smoother, and this shows that the toolkit did not just impose changes. It encouraged people to contribute their own solutions. And what does this case mean for the wider educational center in Kazakhstan? First, it shows that small educational centers can improve significantly without large capital investments. Second, it suggests that regulators or policymakers, they might consider shifting focus from heavy compliance requirements toward encouraging data-driven improvement. And to conclude, this research has shown that TQM can be adapted to small educational centers in emerging economies. The key is to focus on a few practical tools applied consistently. When done this way, quality improvement becomes not a burden, but a natural part of daily work. The results from my case study: higher student retention, better satisfaction, and smoother operations and engaged staff support this approach. And I would like to finish my presentation with a quote by Joseph Duran, who is the key figure in total quality management, that says, quality doesn't happen by accident, it's the result of a commitment to improvement. Thank you for attention.
Grazie. Invito il prossimo candidato, Kalamailai Gagan, prego. Ha fatto una tesi sviluppando delle considerazioni fra il TQM e l'industria 4.0. Prego.
Good afternoon to everybody. My name is Gagan Kalai Malai Lakshman Kumar, and today I will be presenting my thesis on total quality management in the era of Industry 4.0, opportunities and challenges faced in digital transformation. This research explores how modern technology are reshaping traditional quality management practices. Research motivation. To begin with, digital technologies are repeatedly transforming how organizations operate. traditional total quality management is no longer enough on its own. With the rise of Industry 4.0, such as automation, data analytics, and connectivity, organizations must adapt their quality systems. This study is motivated by the need to understand how TQM evolves in a digital environment. Research aim and the questions. The main aim of this research is to analyze how Industry 4.0 reshapes total quality management. To achieve this, I focus on three key questions. First, how digital transformation influences traditional quality management practices. Second, what are the opportunities Industry 4.0 creates? And third, what challenges organizations face adapting these technologies? This study is based on three main concepts. The first, total quality management, which focuses on continuous improvement and customer satisfaction. Second, Industry 4.0, technology like AI, Internet of All Things, and big data. Third, digital transformation of business processes. Together, this is what is known as Quality 4.0, which is the future of quality management. For this research, I used a quality approach. The goal was to identify patterns which used digital transformation, which implements quality management across industries. 6, to find how survives important opportunities, Industry 4.0 improves effectively through automation. It enables real-time data analysis and better decision-making. And it enhances product quality, customer satisfaction through predicting and intelligent systems. However, there are also challenges. Organizations face high implementation costs. There is a need of skilled employees and digital knowledge. And resisting the change can slow down the adoption process. Integrating new technology into the existing systems is a major difficulty. All over, the results show that the digital transformation in both an opportunity and challenges. It does not replace total quality management by transforming it into more advanced and data-driven systems. Organizations must balance technology with human and organizational factors. From the managerial perspective, leaders should focus on digital skill development. They must invest in the right technology and create a culture open to challenge. Most importantly, they should align digital strategies with quality management goals. Conclusion. In conclusion, TQM is evolved into Quality 4.0. Digital technology are reshaping quality is managed. While there is a clear benefits, success depends on strategic adoption and integration of people, process, and technology. Thank you for your attention.
Grazie, un gran successo. Allora invito il candidato Satanov, Evgeny, che discute con me, ha fatto una tesi sulla relazione fra TQM e l'intelligenza artificiale. Prego.
Good evening, dear auditory, dear professors, colleagues, students. I'm happy to present my topic as role of artificial intelligence in achieving total quality management. So, research overview. As you know, the current stage, according to the Juran, calls as Industry 4.0, and in total quality management, it's also named as Quality 4.0, and it's characterized by the changing the control systems from reactive to predictive, and from mass production to mass customization. And without artificial intelligence, it will be very hard to change this stage. And to investigate the application of AI, 3 main questions was done. First one is how can be AI effectively implemented within the total quality management into the global enterprises. Second one is what measurable benefits can be observed or realized through the implementation of AI. And last one, which challenges, it can be organizational, financial, and other challenges can be withstood within the implementation. So research methodology. For my research, I was using the qualitative multi-case study analysis of the 4 global enterprises. And to choose which enterprises I will choose for my research, 4 main criteria was done. First one is a global presence. So it's not enough if the company is staying only in one country, but it should be within the region or within the worldwide. Second one is this company should already adopt the AI. Third one is all their stages, process should be connected to the total quality management. And the last but not least is availability of the resources, sources, and industry reports, which can be used for the qualitative analysis. So the case study insight and key findings. So I will start with the main patterns which was observed. And the first one is the quality of the data, because without good quality data, AI cannot do nothing. It cannot fix bad quality data. Therefore, it's the first important moment which should be taken into observation. Second one is clear rules about who decides, who making the final decision, and how human AI collaboration working together. Third one is AI working over time. If you changing something, if you change the product, if you changing the consumer, and etc., AI needs time to work on mistakes, to work more and more. And with every step, it will work much better. And last but not least is building AI into daily work. So what does it mean? It's when AI, it's not just a tool, but becoming the part of the management, and therefore it can continuously improvement. So the numbers which shows here on the illustration shows that according to the implementation of AI, in the example of BMW, it's decreased the amount of defects on 33%, which is a very big number. AstraZeneca is pharmacy company, it's showing the 80% of reduction of the non-perfect batches. And what about DHL? On 57%, it reduces the cargo damage claims. And the last one, Foxconn, is a technological company. It showed 86% reduction in the defect rate. So if we will collect all this group together, we can collect them into 2 main categories. First main benefit of the AI implementation is defect reduction. So all the numbers showing that it's very coordinately decreasing the amount of defects. It's, as we said before, it's checking them not only after the defect is happened, but it allows us to understand where defects can happen in the future. And second one is process optimization. So challenges. Which challenges can be withstood with implementation of AI? First one is cost, because to implement the AI, it's needed higher cost. So it's the ownership issue for the servers, and etc. Culture and trust. So nowadays, not so many specialists are working on the AI. Therefore, it can be very hard to find such people and identify how decision-making process will be done with this implementation of AI into global enterprise. And data inconsistency. So as I said before, the most important for implementation of AI is data, which should be organized and united all together. So all the departments, all the aspects should be collected all together so that AI can work on this data. Strategic recommendation. First one is build quality grade data foundations. So it means that all the company should use the same data sets. Second one is establish the governance, which clarifying who making the decision. Third one is implement AI also as well to the steps and pillars of the total quality management for continuous improvement and learning. Fourth one is design human AI collaboration, how the trust can be achieved. And last one, manage the change process as a stages of transformation with quick and controlled rollout. So thank you very much, everyone. And I also want to say that AI implementation showing the successful mechanisms already, it's already working. However, collaboration between human and AI, it still needs to be learned, it still needs to be educated. We need more specialists almost in every industry which can control and develop this sphere. And finally, I want to say thank you, everyone, especially for my supervisor, Professor Lucio Capelli. Grazie.
Grazie. Invito il prossimo candidato, Kederkar Surab Sanjay, che discute con la professoressa Sanfilippo, Eleonora.
Ok. Surab Kedekar wrote a thesis on ESG criteria and EU policies, a challenge for small and medium enterprises. I ask the candidate to clarify the research question and the key findings of his work. Please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Saurabh Sanjay Khedekar. I'm explaining the thesis today with the name of European ESG criteria and the EU policies for a challenge for the SMEs. The research analysis shows how European policies, regulation influence small and medium scale size enterprises, whether the policies challenges for the further implementations. ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance criteria. These criteria is used to evaluate how companies operate in terms of sustainability in recent years. The European Union has strongly promoted ESG policies to support sustainable economic growth and business behavior. However, the small and medium-sized enterprises represent more than 99% of all businesses in the European Union. They play a key vital role in employment, innovation, and economic growth of the business. As mentioned, the research question, how do EU ESG regulation affect SMEs and what barriers limit the effective adaptation of ESG practices? So, as per the question, I have the answer from the thesis that we have like 3 objectives. The first, to analyze the EU ESG regulatory framework. Second is to identify the main challenges faced by SMEs. The third, to evaluate whether current policies adequately support smaller firms. The thesis is structured into 4 chapters. The first chapter, which introduces of ESG concepts. The second one is to analyze the ESG concepts of the regulatory framework. The third chapter focuses on the challenges faced by the SMEs, including financial cost. And the fourth finally represents conclusions and the policy recommendations. The key findings. A key insight from the research is that most ESG regulations are designed primarily for large companies. Although reporting requirements, they often face indirect pressure through supply chains. This creates a gap between regulatory expectations and the actual capabilities of the SMEs. Finally, the challenges, those are upcoming for the small and medium scale enterprises are the administrative complexity, financial constraints, and the lack of experts. Because the small scale industries have a less of the money, so they can't spend more on the financial constraints of the reporting facilities. Administrative complexity, because they have the less of the people, administrative staff working for it, and the lack of expertise. Coming to the conclusion, SMEs are fundamental for achieving European Union's sustainability objectives. However, current ESG frameworks do not always adequately consider the limitations faced by the smaller firms. For these reasons, policymakers should promote simplified remote reporting system, financial support mechanism, and the training programs. The measures would allow SMEs to participate more effectively in the European sustainability transition. I would like to thank Professor Sanfilippo for guiding me through the entire journey of my master's over here and the rest of the committee. Thank you so much.
Grazie. E invito la prossima candidata, Nicole Nuce, che discute con la professoressa Cuozzo. Benedetta.
La ringrazio Presidente. La candidata presenta una tesi volta a investigare come un fattore potenziante del capitale intellettuale, quale l'intelligenza artificiale generativa, stia modificando i processi di creazione di brevetti, marche e diritti d'autore, evidenziando ovviamente le criticità. Ti pregherei di sintetizzare i principali risultati della tua ricerca.
Buon pomeriggio alla Commissione e buon pomeriggio a tutti. L'obiettivo del seguente elaborato di tesi è quello di analizzare il ruolo dell'intelligenza artificiale generativa nella creazione di brevetti, marchi e diritti d'autore e la relativa iscrizione in bilancio. È stata innanzitutto delineata l'importanza del capitale intellettuale, per poi soffermarci sulla nascita del capitale intellettuale potenziato ed infine sul ruolo dell'intelligenza artificiale e dei brevetti tramite caso studio. Secondo la classificazione di Stewart, l'insieme delle conoscenze a disposizione dell'impresa può essere definito come capitale o patrimonio intellettuale dell'impresa. Il valore di un'azienda è costituito da beni fisici, da diverse forme di capitale finanziario e da beni che vengono definiti intangibili, e tra questi il capitale intellettuale, che a sua volta può essere diviso in capitale strutturale, capitale relazionale e capitale umano. Nel capitale strutturale si inseriscono i diritti di proprietà intellettuale, quali brevetto, diritto d'autore, segreto industriale e marchio. Il capitale intellettuale può poi essere potenziato da intelligenza artificiale, blockchain, big data e platform economy. Il focus del laborato è proprio l'intelligenza artificiale. L'intelligenza artificiale è una tecnologia in rapida evoluzione che consente di cambiare rapidamente il modo in cui le aziende si sviluppano. Si tratta dell'abilità che possiede un computer di svolgere funzioni e ragionamenti tipici della mente umana, il cui obiettivo è imitare per mezzo di macchine normalmente elettroniche l'attività mentale umana. Possiamo avere anche l'intelligenza artificiale generativa, che invece è in grado di creare un nuovo contenuto da sola. Molte aziende la vedono come uno strumento in grado di trasformare il modo di interagire proprio con la tecnologia, perché sta trasformando in modo radicale gli asset intangibili, spostandoli da costi operativi o voci di bilancio in veri e propri motori di ricerca per la creazione del valore dinamico. Alla luce del sempre maggiore utilizzo di tali innovazioni nei processi aziendali e nella creazione di beni che sono normalmente assoggettati alle regole del diritto d'autore, nascono due interrogativi che potrebbero avere un impatto diretto sulla contabilizzazione di tali asset in bilancio. Da un lato troviamo la paternità dell'opera, dunque chiederci chi è l'autore di un'opera generata dall'intelligenza artificiale, e dall'altro invece troviamo i diritti legali, quindi quali sono i diritti patrimoniali e morali. Il tema è di crescente interesse, come si può notare anche dai grafici. Nel primo grafico notiamo che nel 2024 il maggior numero di domande di brevetto viene dall'Italia, precisamente nel settore dei trasporti, con 449 domande e una crescita pari al più 8,2%, e in questo caso l'Italia si posiziona al quarto posto in Europa. Mentre, come possiamo notare dal secondo grafico, il settore tecnologico che presenta una maggiore crescita di domande di brevetto in Italia è quello di motori, pompe e turbine, con un più 28,6%, mentre dal grafico notiamo che le singole aziende che hanno presentato domande di brevetto sono al primo posto Coercia, secondo posto Ferrari, terzo posto Iveco e quarto posto Leonardo e Pirelli. Per raggiungere l'obiettivo di ricerca è stato effettuato un caso studio tramite un'analisi interpretativo documentale su documenti dell'ufficio brevetti, sentenze e dottrine. Dunque, se prima l'innovazione di un brevetto si poteva considerare come una capacità legata totalmente al genere umano, oggi non è più così, in quanto ci possono essere anche programmi operanti con il supporto dell'intelligenza artificiale. Un esempio è proprio il caso Dabus. La vicenda del caso Dabus ha come protagonista Steven Thaler. Si tratta di un sistema di intelligenza artificiale che è stato progettato per poter generare output creativi autonomamente, quindi senza l'aiuto e la necessità dell'intervento umano, tranne che per i dati di addestramento. Tale vicenda però non ha portato a dei responsi positivi, perché da un lato abbiamo l'EPO che aveva già respinto l'idea di Thaler di definire se stesso come soggetto titolare del brevetto in quanto proprietario e creatore di Dabus, e successivamente invece la Corte Suprema del Regno Unito nel dicembre del 2023 ha stabilito proprio che le domande di brevetto presentate da Thaler, indicando come inventore il sistema di intelligenza artificiale, non soddisfano i requisiti previsti dalla legge del Regno Unito, le quali stabiliscono che l'inventore può essere solo una persona fisica e quindi non un sistema di intelligenza artificiale. Ad oggi il settore dei brevetti rappresenta senza dubbio l'area dove l'intelligenza artificiale ha maggiori potenzialità di sviluppo. Molti autori spingono per estendere la nozione di creatività anche alle opere frutto dell'ingegno dell'intelligenza artificiale, altri invece ritengono che ci siano già i presupposti per poter estendere tali diritti a chi utilizza questo strumento, quindi ci troviamo di fronte a diverse opinioni. Per risolvere questo problema basterebbe indicare come titolare dei diritti derivanti dall'invenzione il sistema di intelligenza artificiale, il team che ha collaborato alla creazione del sistema, oppure chi ha predisposto l'assetto funzionale del sistema, fornendo i dati per poter procedere poi al suo addestramento. In questo modo sarebbe maggiormente chiaro chi ha i diritti patrimoniali e morali sulle opere e quindi se e come poi queste potranno essere iscritte in bilancio. Grazie per l'attenzione.
Ringrazio la candidata. Se non ci sono domande andiamo avanti con la prossima candidata, Asel Akamatalieva, che discute con il professor Giammetti. Raffaele.
Yes. Well, the candidate is going to present a thesis on a very relevant and current topic. I mean, the economic roots of conflicts, of war, with a special case on Russian invasion on Ukraine.
Thank you so much, Professor. Good afternoon to your professors, students, and guests. My name is Asel, and today I will present my thesis, Political Economy of War, Funding Sources and Channels for Russian Military Operations.
Asel, I think you have to open the PPT presentation.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. Introduction. Modern warfare cannot be fully understood without considering its political and economic dimensions, because war is not only fought on the battlefield, but also sustained through financial resources, state institutions, and industrial production. However, most existing discussions on war financing focus mainly on official defense spending and military budgets, which provide only a partial picture. In this context, Russia represents a relevant case study as it has sustained large-scale military operations since 2022, despite significant external pressures and financial restrictions. Building on this research aims to analyze the main sources and channels through which Russia funds its military operations during the ongoing conflict. Literature review. The literature shows that war plays a central role in shaping state institutions, while government use political and economic tools to mobilize resources for military purposes. It also highlights how external constraints, such as sanctions, can lead to economic adaptation and restructuring rather than simple economic decline. Data and methods. The analysis is based on data from official institutions and is complemented by secondary sources to provide additional context. The study adopts a mixed method approach, combining descriptive quantitative analysis with qualitative interpretation.
Results and discussion. In 2022, federal budget expenditures amounted to 31 trillion rubles, increased further to 30 trillion rubles in 2024, as you can see in the slides. This upward trend indicates a continued expansion of public expenditure after 2022, accompanied by persistent fiscal deficits. The main sources of Russia's funding for Russia's war-related expenditures are oil and gas revenues, non-oil revenues such as domestic taxation, state-controlled economic rents, including dividends and state-owned enterprises, then budget allocations that redirect resources toward military priorities, and implicit inflation tax, which shifts the burden of war indirectly into households. War-related spending in the federal budget can be divided into both visible and less transparent channels. The first is the direct budgetary channel, which represents the most visible form of spending. This includes the allocations for national defense, national security, and law enforcement. The second is the opaque budgetary channel, which is less transparent. A significant portion of federal spending falls into this category where the purpose and use of funds are not clearly disclosed. This includes classified expenditure, non-program spending, social support measures, and transfers to regional and subnational budgets. In addition to the federal budget, the analysis identifies a potential off-budget channel of war financing through the banking system. Empirical evidence shows that corporate loans represent the largest share of banking system, approximately 41%, as you can in the slide. In general, the results indicate the development of a unified financial system that was specifically established during the war. Conclusion. In conclusion, the findings show that war funding in Russia operates through a complex fiscal and financial system. The military mobilization is sustained through multiple funding sources that function across both visible and less transparent channels, including indirect fiscal practices. These practices create an adaptive system that enables the state to sustain prolonged military operations while managing the visibility and timing of wartime costs, even under external constraints such as sanctions. And at the end of my presentation, I would like to express my greatest appreciation to my supervisor, Professor Raffaele Giametti, for his guidance and his great support during the process of writing my thesis. Thank you, and thank you for your attention.
Bene, invito il prossimo candidato, Bodupalli Achilles, sempre con te Raffaele.
Yes. The candidate has studied the implication of global value chains disruption in a globalized, fragmented and networked global economy.
Good afternoon. My name is Akhilesh and my topic is about supply chain disruption in a globalized world, accessing the impact of global crisis on international trade and production
The
networks.
microphone. Yes.
Okay? Yeah. So the introduction of global supply chain. Global supply chain are complex multi-tiered networks that links the supplier, manufacturer, distributor and retailer across different countries. It has been driven by the cost efficiency and specialization, as this techniques are mainly rely on just-in-time inventory and outsourcing. And the objective of my research is firstly identify the structural vulnerabilities that weakens the supply chain framework. Secondly, understanding the ripple effect, how disruption spread across the different systems. And thirdly, evaluating the challenges of efficiency-driven models. The next topic is about globalization risk paradox. Globalization has efficiently increases the growth and international connection, but on the other side, it has increased the interdependence, bottlenecks, geographical concentration. As a result, it has a global impact of small disruption can create a larger consequences. To understand this deeper in a better way, let us start from the evolution of the supply chain. Evolution of supply chain is from the local trade to mass production, then to global value chains, which created the digitalization and Industry 4.0. As supply chain is a complex in nature, it has to understand with the help of network theory. Network theory is nothing but knots and arc. Knots are supply factories, warehouses, which are being connected by the transportation links. As it is a multi-tier structure, it is 7 to 17 times more deeper, which makes the risk detection difficult. One of the major risk factor of the supply chain geographical concentration, as 25% of the China's production is based on the global goods, can produce the worth of 134 billion flow from the single country, which creates 70% of the global volume. Which next coming to the main topic of ripple effect. Initial shock of the one node dominates the failure of propagation of upstream and the downstream of the non-linear amplification through the network perform a systematic collapse. As there are some of the application factors like just-in-time inventory models, single source strategies, multi-tier opacities, and geographical concentration. As I have found some of the evidence, as 100 days of disruption can reduce the company's annual income by 30 to 50%, and a small disruption in the sea route disruption can create a 10 to 12 days of delays and increase the freight rates. So companies need to adapt some strategic responses by supplying the diversification by using the dual sourcing and reshoring and nearshoring the production and using the strategic buffers to reduce the risk management. And technology also play a vital role by enhancing AI and Internet of Things integration to show the real-time visibility and using of the blockchain technology. As well as government also play a vital role by providing a supportive policies such as tax initiative and trade alignment. By this I can conclude that supply chain is not only a efficiency driven, but also it should be balanced with the resilience. Thank you for everyone.
Grazie. Invito il prossimo, Imanshu Pulbia. Raffaele, sempre con te.
Yes, the candidate is going to present a study, a thesis on the economic implication of artificial intelligence in the financial markets.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So the topic of my thesis is the impact of artificial intelligence on financial markets. So to understand this topic well, we need to just jump into some of the statistics. Like the first one is 67% of all the AI equity trading.
Can you speak?
67% of all the equity trading globally is done through artificial intelligence and all through algorithmic trading. And till in the year 2020, the investment of financial institutions in the artificial intelligence was 35 billion, but the projected 2027 is 97 billion. And also it has reduced the drop in the bid-ask spread almost to around 50%. Now to understand how it has evolved, we can go through that. The trading was done through human discretion. Then again it was done through Quant 1, and then right now we are using Quant 3. It jumped, it changed from Quant 2 to Quant 3 in just around 16 years, 17 years. And in the human discretion, it was just like the judgment was necessary, and the in human discretion, everyone had a behavioral diversity, and everyone handled the uncertainty differently. But when we moved to Quant 1, we used simple basic computer systems for doing trading. We use rule-based and we arbitrage the statistics to get the profit from the market. The one advantage was it that it was fully transparent and fully auditable, but it also has a downside, like the incident of 2007 where the quant quake happened and people had to think over how to handle this. So right now we are using machine learning and natural language processing and LLMs, and we are also using the alternative data mode for different institutions, and this also results in more profit, same day profit, like 40 to 60% of alpha is the word alpha is used here. So it is basically the price from a standard deviation is the alpha, which is 40 to 60%. So to understand like how this quant2 is going forward, I have selected one company, Microsoft. So this slide is data and methodology, and why I have selected Microsoft is because it has the highest AI density and it has highest, it is one of the biggest companies in the world. But most importantly, I have selected this company because it is one of the most drastically changed company in the world because of the CEOs. 3 CEOs were there: Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer, and right now Satya Nadella. During the Ballmer period, it was for 10 years, it was a constant dead stock. It has not gone, the standard deviation was almost 0.1%. It has not changed much, but after the Nadella took over, he made the company's vision different. He made it like AI first company. That's why I have selected this company. I have done regression through 3 models to prove my thesis. First model is for same day, second model is for the next day return, and in third one I have checked whether the returns are in proportion to sentiment. These are the research questions which I have mentioned, which I'll explain through these models. So in the first, second, and third model, I got these results. We can see small r is a relationship between these 2 variables, news sentiment and the returns. So it is a 0.031 for model 1 and for 0.04 for model 2. And model 3 is significant. I have not specified model because I have not specified the number just because it is not necessary. Now if we see the chart, after doing the regression analysis, we can see that the p-value in the first model is less than 0.05. That means that 95% of my data is correct, and it is not by luck that this model is correct. And for the second one, the model is not significant enough. And for the third one, we can see that they are highly correlated with each other. And wherever the volatility, the sentiment increases, there are bigger swings. These make the system more efficient, but they also make the system more fragile, and that is what we are dealing with. So here is the photo of the god of beginnings, the Janus. He's a 2-faced god, similar to AI. Like I use this picture to explain what AI does. It makes it more efficient, it makes it more fragile, but these are the points I discussed earlier also, like the relationship is 0.31 and next returns are very less, 0.04. So there is no exploitable alpha from public information for the next day. But in this thesis I have discussed how to deal with this paradox of efficiency and the fragility. The AI makes the system more efficient, but they also make it more fragile, because 65% of financial clouds are just 3 providers in the world. If all the banks or financial institutions in Italy, if they use the same cloud computing services, and if they fail, as we saw recently in Dubai, it was attacked and AWS server crashed. So that is also a type of fragility we need to deal with. So for that, next slide is regulatory landscape and implications. Here are 4 regulatory landscape. First one is EU AI Act. Sorry. Okay. EU AI Act, and second one is FSB, ECB, and BIS. Two of these are from Europe, and two of these are from global perspective. And for investors and for regulators, the efficiency part plays a good role for investors. They can get good profit for the same day markets. They can take away the arbitrage alpha from large cap stocks. And for regulators, they must address the monoculture and cloud concentration globally. The EU AI Act and DORA and MFID, they are positive, but if I want to find a loophole in the Europe, like I can just go to another country and just find a loophole, like just get rid of the regulations. And if all the world doesn't follow that regulation, then it is not good. The conclusions are the efficiency was confirmed through my model. Fragility is also exposed because we are just focused on 3 cloud computing services, and there is a governance gap. In EU AI Act is for Europe, but for other world countries, if the technology they are using, they are not having the same kind of regulations, then there is a fragmented world out there. The limitations of my thesis is like I only taken one single stock for only 1 year, and only I have used the lexicon NLP dictionary, and I have taken the daily data. So these all things I have selected variables, but we can change it, and we can just use different type of transformers. We can different types of data we can use, like intraday data, or we can use multiple years we can select. So the final thing I would like to say: faster markets, smarter markets, but are they safer markets? That is the question AI forces us to ask. That will conclude my thesis. Thank you so much to my professor Rafael Gemetti. Thank you.
Grazie. Invito il prossimo candidato, Abebe Sima Meron. Raffaele, sempre con te.
Yes, we're still in the field of artificial intelligence. It seems it's the hot topic today. In this case, the candidate has studied the implication of artificial intelligence on a global value chain, reshoring, backshoring. So if the use of artificial intelligence can, in a way, improve domestic linkages.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Meron Abebesima, and I'll present on artificial intelligence exposure in the global value chain participation, evidence from the TVVA country industry data. The thesis is constructed under the supervision of Professor Raffaele Gemetti, and the goal is to understand how AI as a transformative technology is reshaping the global value chain production networks. So the global value chains are the central modern international productions. At the same time, sectors differ in their task compositions and technology differences. So AI is not, the AI exposure is also not uniformly distributed. This raises a key questions. That is AI, the difference in AI adoption or exposure to the global value chain production are integrated. So AI may reshape the global production structure, and these questions rises, and it motivates me to investigate more on the empirical evidence, since there is a limited empirical evidence available. The central question of the thesis is, are AI exposed sectors more or less integrated into the global value chains? I analyze this in 2 dimensions: the backward participation, where the independencies to the imported inputs, and the forward participation, which is like the supplying inputs to other countries. So the contribution is threefold, which is the first empirical link, which links the AI and the GVC. And the second one is the country sector approach. And the third contribution is the AIE and TVIVA integration, which is the first one. So this relationship is ambiguous, and AI may increase or decrease the global value chain participation, but it depends on which mechanism we are talking or dominating about. I use the data which is from OECD TIVA database 2018, and the Felton's AI industry exposure data, which includes 31 countries and 43 sectors, as a total 1,333 observation. The key concept here is that AI, when we say AI exposure, we are referring that how this sector is exposed to AI, but not the actual adoption. For the regression, I used a pooled OLS regression and a country-fixed model. Since the sectors are constant across all, I use a sector cluster standard error to investigate it. As for the result, the descriptive evidence, as shown in this figure, the AI exposure varies across sectors from -1.74 to 2.074. High AI exposed country sectors, which are in the red one, there are like finances, IT, and professional other facilities. And the lower exposure sectors, which are the manufacturing and the physical tasks. This figure shows that how the cross-sector heterogeneity is available, so this is also important for the analysis. The main result of the thesis is that there is a negative relationship with the AI exposure, and as you can see in the picture, like it is a downward slope, so the high AI sector relies on the foreign inputs. As for the forward GVC, the relationship is positive, but we interpreted it with a caution in mind. Also, the regression result confirms this quantitatively. One standard increase in AI results a negative 3.09 percentage points. This also robust across models. As you can see, the confidence interval supports this result. We can say that we are confident with the given result statistically. As for the forward GVC, it is positive, but we cannot adopt the robust, so we cannot say that much onto that. As for the interpretation, there are two interpretations, a structural effect and technological effect. Since as a structural composition, we can say that AI low reliance on imported inputs because of naturally, since service sectors are more low reliant on the imported inputs, so it's more focused on the manufacturing. As for the technological advancement, the automation and the automation reduces the need for foreign levels, so it will help. It will provide a reshoring effect. So, as to conclude all this, AI exposure decreases as the foreign input reliance are adopting. So there is no clear effect on the forward GVC, but this means not it is not a deglobalization effect, but instead it relies on the structural change on the global production networks. So policymakers should emphasize on the industrial policy and AI adopting sectors to restructure the global value chain structure or simplifying the supply chain process. Thank you very much, and thank you very much, my professor. I'm very happy I get to work with you and my families and all my friends for all the support you have given to me. Thank you.
Grazie. E invito il prossimo candidato, Hassan Tayurabia. E discute con te, Luisa, sì.
Just Ethiopia. Ethiopia is a country with high levels of immigration to other countries. In this thesis, the candidate analyzes the internal migration, that is the migration within Ethiopia, with particular reference to the forced and voluntary migration. Now, give your presentation, please.
Thank you, Professor. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rabia Santaju. I'll be presenting my thesis on internal migration in Ethiopia, its causes, dynamics, and socio-economic impacts. Before I start, I would like to thank Professor Luisa Natale for her constant guidance throughout this completion of the thesis. The main objective of the thesis is to analyze the causes, dynamics, and socio-economic impacts of internal migration in Ethiopia using a unified framework that captures both voluntary and forced movement. The thesis is structured into 5 chapters to meet this objective. Internal migration is the movement of people within the borders of a single country. In Ethiopia, it has become increasingly significant due to rapid urbanization, land scarcity, climate shocks, and rising conflict. These movements are reshaping both economy and social structure of the country. The problem of existing research is that it separates voluntary economic migration and conflict-induced displacement. Ethiopian migration is now mixed, and there's limited integrated analysis. As we can see in this graph, internal migration volume over the last decade is constantly increasing. And the peak year was in 2023, with over 5 million internally displaced people. There are 3 migration theories. The first one is the economic model, which states that migration happens because labor is spread unevenly across different regions, and workers move from low-wage areas to high-wage areas. The second model is social. It states that migration is a strategy used by families not to just maximize income, but to diversify risks and secure a source of income that is independent of agricultural risks. The third model is push and pull model, which is the most widely used tool. It categorizes the negative forces at the origin as push forces and the attractive forces at the destination as pull forces. There are 3 causes of migration. The first one is economic. It includes land scarcity, rural poverty, and rural-urban wage differentials. The second one is environmental. It includes frequent drought, unpredictable rainfall, long-term soil erosion, and land degradation. The third is security, which is ethnic conflict and border violence. As we can see in this graph, the red bar shows displaced people due to conflict. And we can see in this graph that across all regions of Ethiopia, conflict is the predominant cause for internal migration. And in most of the regions, conflict-induced migrants constitute 90% or more of the overall internal migrants. So, the overlap of migration drivers. The first overlap is between security and environmental factors. It happens when scarcity of water and grazing land becomes a primary catalyst for outbreak of conflict. The second is between security and economic factors. It happens when displaced people flee with 0 assets, having lost their livestock or crops to violence. The third is between environmental and economic factors. It happens when degradation of natural resources multiply existing poverty. When we come to the dynamics of migration, there are 3 types of flow patterns. The first is rural to rural. The second, rural to urban, which is the most dominant flow, and 42% of that is to Addis Ababa. The third is conflict to safety, which is non-selective, and displacement to the nearest secure area.
Economic migrants are better educated. 80% of them are under the age of 30. Female migrants constitute 50.1% of internal migrants, and male migrants constitute 49.9%. Again, for forced displacement, it is non-selective, and entire families, including elderly and children, move, and this creates high dependency ratios. Impacts of migration are categorized into three: economic, welfare development, and social and demographic. Some positive impacts include increase in rural consumption, rural poverty reduction, increased household income, improved food security, and rural-urban family support network strengthening. Some negative ones include youth unemployment, rural labor shortages, low quality of life, gender-specific vulnerabilities, harassment, and social exclusion. In conclusion, internal migration in Ethiopia is driven by interconnected economic, environmental, and conflict-related factors, creating a mixed migration system. Migration provides important livelihood opportunities, but at the same time, it generates significant challenges. Overall, it has become a critical component of Ethiopia's socio-economic transformation, requiring integrated policies that address both development and humanitarian needs. Some policy recommendations include enhancing urban integration and labor outcomes, strengthening rural resilience and remittance security, and integrating humanitarian and development responses. Thank you for your attention.
Grazie. Invito l'ultimo candidato, Ali Rizvi Siyed Akmal, che discute con te.
Yes, Syed developed an interesting topic, the carbon sequestration technology in future. As we know, carbon sequestration technology are important to reduce the burdens for companies to achieve the industrial transformation towards carbon zero targets. 5 minutes for you first. For the others, Syed, it's your turn, your floor.
Ciao, buonasera a tutti. Good morning, good evening, everyone. Member of the committee, my name is Syed Akmal Ali Rizvi. I am honored to present the topic carbon sequestration technologies in future. First of all, I would like to say thank you to Professor Eliardo Furlani to enable me and to allow me with the opportunity to think in a different dimension rather than studying traditional topics in entrepreneurship. This is the problem which we can see that nowadays different industry leaders, different established governments, independent countries, and developed countries are focusing on, which is reducing carbon dioxide from the future, from the environment. I would like to introduce that the urgent need for sequestration, because the excess carbon dioxide is heavily impacting the climate change, which we can see, and we are witnessing that in every country, we are seeing that the traditional environment is changing and it's going to the extreme levels. The problem is like we have 2 or 3 different technologies. Like if we go with the technological base, this is direct air capture. In this technology, we capture the air, we remove the carbon dioxide, we release the oxygen. We do also have the natural approaches like forestry, soil, plantation, and all. But after studying multiple research topics, I have gone through to a verdict and a term by professors, which is said valley of death. These technologies are supposed to be a valley of death because of the high cost. We have multiple CCS sites, projects like carbon capture storage sites, but the problem is high investments on direct air capturing. The problem is the monitoring. The problem is the verification that how much carbon we have, how much carbon dioxide we stored, and we remove how much carbon dioxide from the environment. This also creates a trust factor, a less trust factor, like if we go for asking any investments, like if governments are creating any initiatives, if SMEs wanted to involve in this particular field, like if they want to work on technologies for reducing carbon dioxide, they are getting lack of investments due to the MRV framework. The research objective is to investigate that how technology could help in reducing this problem and tackling the traditional carbon capturing, storage, and DAC methods. The original contribution, the framework, which I developed, I would like to introduce the framework. We are living in the technological era, and there are many of my colleagues who have talked about AI development, IoT sensors, and all. Right now, we have 3 different technologies. If we propose, after studying multiple research topics, research papers, on each of the steps, if we would combine all 3 platforms all together, we could reduce the trust factor, we could reduce the cost, we could reduce the challenges, the investment challenges. For example, the first one is the IoT sensors, Internet of Things sensors, for monitoring purpose. If we deploy those IoT sensors, we could reduce the manual intervention for monitoring of the carbon which we save in the storage sites, which we save underground, for example. What we can do, if we would deploy IoT sensors, we could have real-time monitoring instead of having a manual record keeping after 5 days, 2 days, 10 days, or bi-monthly or monthly. With IoT sensor, we can have a real-time data. We can also integrate AI to the IoT sensors, which will help us to analyze the real-time data, that how the storage capacity is functioning. Like, we can analyze what are the best ways to remove carbon dioxide, either the natural processes, either the direct air capture. We can reduce the cost as well, because when we will reduce the manual intervention, we could reduce the cost. The third one, which is blockchain transparency. Blockchain transparency provides ledger system, which is, the term says blockchain, which is like the transparent ledgers. If we would insert any financial entry into that, if we would insert any record into that, no one can change, even the author cannot change the entry which he or she incorporate in that thing. So due to the blockchain technology, we could ensure the trust of the investors, we could ensure the trust of the governments for developing and going towards this important topic. The current market leaders in this, who are having the technologies and who are working on the carbon sequestration, are US, Canada, Norway, UK, China, and now we are seeing that Middle East, Dubai, Qatar, Saudi, even if we talk about Europe, Netherlands, and multiple different players are stepping into it, but the only problem is the trust. If we could do this, we could reduce the trust factor. After analyzing all of these, like after also analyzing the trust factor, after also analyzing the implementation of this model, we analyze that we have, because in everything we have the strengths and in everything we have the weaknesses. So considering this model, if we implement this model, we could integrate IoT blockchain, we could integrate the trust, we could we could reduce the tampering in the system. There would be no manual intervention, but we also have the weaknesses. The weaknesses would be the initial technology investments. It could be the dependence on the digital infrastructure. It could be technical complexity. Like it could be a technical complexity. But once we did it, we could do it. And the opportunities and the threats is like we could have a cybersecurity vulnerability. So we could implement this with the involvement of the governments. So we could do it in a better way. In the last, I would like to say thank you for your attention, and a special thanks to Professor Forlani Aliardo, who supervised my thesis. And also I would like to say thank you to my family, my friends, for their all-time support to my journey, also to my sister, Farina, who is sitting just in front of me, whosoever I am, just because of her. So all credit goes to her. And in last, I would just like to raise the flag of my country. So thank you so much for your attention, guys. Thank you.
Grazie anche per i ringraziamenti. Noi ci allontaniamo per qualche minuto e saremo qui fra poco per le proclamazioni. We'll be back in a few minutes for proclamation. Andiamo.
Una è del Bangladesh, quella là con la... E vabbè.
Allora prego soltanto i candidati di restare qui. Please, all the candidates remain here. Allora mi raccomando, per cortesia, mettetevi qui intorno, please. Ok, mi raccomando di firmare il verbale. Please remember to sign the paper, ok? Here, to my colleague. Allora, prego Alina Abdirisarulova di avvicinarsi. La Commissione ha approvato il suo esame di laurea. In virtù dei poteri conferiti dalla legge, la proclamo dottoressa in economia e commercio con voti 91 su 110. 91 out of 110. Prego la candidata Mira Abicheva. La Commissione ha approvato il suo esame di laurea. In virtù dei poteri conferiti dalla legge, la proclamo dottoressa in economia e commercio con voti 92 su 110. 92 out of 110. Invito Aizmal Apisheva. La Commissione ha approvato il suo esame di laurea. In virtù dei poteri conferiti dalla legge, la proclamo dottoressa in economia e commercio con voti 87 su 110. 87 out of 110. Congratulazioni. Attenzione. Oh, io l'ho bevuta, non dai bicchieri. Allora, invito Arlen Baimurazev. La Commissione ha approvato il suo esame di laurea. In virtù dei poteri conferiti dalla legge, la proclamo dottore in economia e commercio con voti 82 su 110. 82 out of 110. Invito Aidana Osmonova. La Commissione ha approvato il suo esame di laurea. In virtù dei poteri conferiti dalla legge, la proclamo dottoressa in economia e commercio con voti 93 su 110. 93 out of 110. Invito Kalliga Suyundukova. La Commissione ha approvato il suo esame di laurea. In virtù dei poteri conferiti dalla legge, la proclamo dottoressa in economia e commercio con voti 89 su 110. 89 out of 110. Congratulazioni. Invito Aurora Scannella. La Commissione ha approvato il suo esame di laurea. In virtù dei poteri conferiti dalla legge, la proclamo dottoressa in economia aziendale con voti 96 su 110. Passiamo adesso alle lauree magistrali. Invito Anwar Faiz. La Commissione ha approvato il suo esame di laurea. In virtù dei poteri conferiti dalla legge, la proclamo dottore magistrale in Global Economy and Business con voti 83 su 110, 83 out of 110. Invito Zuldiz Barzabayeva. La Commissione ha approvato il suo esame di laurea. In virtù dei poteri conferiti dalla legge, la proclamo dottoressa magistrale in Global Economy and Business con voti 76 su 110, 76 out of 110. Invito Kalamalai la Commissione ha approvato il suo esame di laurea. In virtù dei poteri conferiti dalla legge, la proclamo dottore magistrale in Global Economy and Business con voti 86 su 110. 86 out of 110. Invito Satanov Eugeni. La Commissione ha approvato il suo esame di laurea. In virtù dei poteri conferiti dalla legge, la proclamo dottore magistrale in Global Economy and Business con voti 93 su 110. 93 out of 110. Invito il candidato Sanjay Kedakar. La Commissione ha approvato il suo esame di laurea. In virtù dei poteri conferiti dalla legge, la proclamo dottore magistrale in Economics Entrepreneurship con voti 92 su 110, 92 out of 110. Invito la candidata Nicole Noce. La Commissione ha approvato il suo esame di laurea. In virtù dei poteri conferiti dalla legge, la proclamo dottoressa magistrale in Management con voti 110 su 110 e all'unanimità le è stata conferita la lode. Invito Akhmatalieva Assel. La Commissione ha approvato il suo esame di laurea. In virtù dei poteri conferiti dalla legge, la proclamo dottoressa magistrale in Global Economy and Business con voti 94 su 110. 94 out of 110. Invito Bodupalli Akhilesh. La Commissione ha approvato il suo esame di laurea. In virtù dei poteri conferiti dalla legge, la proclamo dottore magistrale in Global Economy and Business con voti 96 su 110, 96 out of 110. Invito Himanshu Purbia. La Commissione ha approvato il suo esame di laurea. In virtù dei poteri conferiti dalla legge, la proclamo dottore magistrale in Global Economy and Business con voti 84 su 110, 84 out of 110. Invito Sima Merona Bebe. La Commissione ha approvato il suo esame di laurea. In virtù dei poteri conferiti dalla legge, la proclamo dottoressa magistrale in Global Economy and Business con voti 101 su 110, 101 out of 110. Invito Hassen Tajuradia. La Commissione ha approvato il suo esame di laurea. In virtù dei poteri conferiti dalla legge, la proclamo dottoressa magistrale in Global Economy and Business con voti 92 su 110, 92 out of 110. E infine invito candidato Ali Akmal Rizvi Sied. La Commissione ha approvato il suo esame di laurea. In virtù dei poteri conferiti dalla legge, la proclamo dottore magistrale in Economics and Entrepreneurship con voti 97 su 110, 96 out of 110. Congratulazioni. Allora, soltanto l'augurio da parte mia e di tutta la Commissione ai neodottori e ai neodottori magistrali. È un giorno importante, godetevelo. Naturalmente il nostro auspicio per i dottori della triennale è che possano proseguire gli studi, se loro, qualora lo desiderassero, qui a Cassino abbiamo una ottima offerta di tesi, di corsi di laurea magistrali. Ancora auguri da parte nostra, a voi e alle vostre famiglie. Grazie ragazzi.